Welcome to the Every Mom is an Athlete podcast, where we believe that motherhood is inherently athletic. I see you lifting car seats, chasing toddlers, and carrying groceries one-handed while holding a baby and a coffee. Your daily life is a workout. I'm Dr. Karlie, pregnancy and postpartum expert, sports chiropractor, strength coach, entrepreneur, and mom of three. Here you'll find solo episodes and real conversations with other moms and leading experts, so you can live your strongest, healthiest, most aligned life in motherhood. No matter how long it's been since you've had your baby, whether you're reconnecting with your body, rebuilding your strength, or just figuring out what feels good again, you're in the right place. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. We have dietitian extraordinaire, Liz Wyosnick. Liz is a great friend of mine and has just been such a great resource for me for patients, actually, in my physical practice as a chiropractor. And she works with, well, I guess she works with some men too, but we don't want to focus on them. She works mostly with women, helping with hormones, postpartum. As we know, 80% of women in the world are going to have a baby at some point. So that means like so many of us are postpartum and that lasts forever. So she's going to just break down a lot of myths today, give us a lot of great information. So Liz, why don't you do a little intro of yourself? Tell us a little about yourself to get started.
Okay, I'm so excited to be here. So I have a private practice named Equilibrium with the emphasis on yum in Seattle. I've been a registered dietitian for 10 years and have had my private practice for 6 years. I love working with moms, love working with women that are handling any stage of childhood or preconception. I have 2 little girls myself. I love being active. That's what got me into nutrition in the first place, because I really saw that nutrition enhanced my performance and my energy and my recovery. So I also have a strong passion for sports nutrition as well.
Oh, wait. So nutrition is important for every general aspect of our life and fitness and health. Who knew?
Can you believe it? Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
my goodness. Yes. Let's just jump right in, because I know I got so many questions when I put this out on social media. Social media is great. We love it. We hate it. But one thing that I think, especially with nutrition, it's so confusing. There's so many, whatever you look for, you can find, right? Protein's bad. Protein's good. Carbs are bad. Carbs are good. Coffee's bad. Coffee's good. Let's just try to break down some of that stuff. So let's talk about some mistakes. So common mistakes that you see new moms making. Let's talk about like early in that postpartum period. So maybe that like beginning, and then we can get into like later as our kids are getting a little older.
Yeah. Ideally, I'm trying to meet my moms before their welcoming baby, because one of the biggest mistakes that I see is inadequate nutrition or inadequate hydration. It almost feels like right when that baby is in the world, all of our needs are shoved aside as the mom, and we're just focused on taking care of that little baby, obviously, right? But there's a saying that I love, and it's practiced in many communities and many cultures, and that is, it's mommy's job to feed baby, whether that's breast or bottle, and then it's everybody else's job to feed mom. And I
love
wish,
that.
yes, I wish we practiced that. So it's about, asking for help, getting maybe that meal train going. I also offer my moms a lot of freezer meals that maybe they're prepping ahead of time to have in their freezer that can just quickly go in a crock pot for a quick dinner. I even recommend oftentimes a local or regional meal delivery service just so that they can outsource some of their meals and they're taken care of, because adequate nutrition and eating in a consistent manner in those early months is just so important for healing and recovery, and also that sustained energy. We both know all too well that those early newborn weeks are trying mentally and physically. So adequate nutrition is just so, so important. Making sure that just as you're feeding your baby on demand and then you transition to feeding that baby every 3 to 4 hours, we need that too. The mamas need that too. You need to be on a consistent eating schedule through your day so that you're eating about every 3 to 3.5 hours. That's usually what our body loves, to be fed in that. I call it CPR eating, consistent, predictable, and reliable. So I would say the biggest thing is that you're just making sure that you have some meals in place, you have helpers in place, and that mommy gets fed just as often as babies getting fed.
Yeah, it's so
Mm.
hard. I mean, any new mom, right? I'm still in it with a 4-month-old, but like any new mom knows it is so hard. So I'd love to ask you, what are some of your favorite freezer meals? And maybe tell people what that looks like.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, tell me what that looks like. Let me go make some of those meals because I think that is so helpful. So tell me, what are some of your favorites?
Yeah, definitely. So I have some recipe cards that I send my new moms, and there should be a better name for this, but they're kind of called dump meals. And that just
Yeah.
means that you're putting sauces, you're putting spices, maybe you're putting some fresh herbs, cut up onions, cut up garlic, and then your protein, meat, pork, beef, into a freezer bag and then freezing it all together so that it's in the marinade, it's in the spices. Maybe you're also adding some nice starchy vegetables like cut up potatoes, sweet potatoes. And then right out of the freezer and out of the bag, you put it into the crock pot, completely frozen, and can set it on a low and slow cooking setting so that by the time dinner comes around or midday, your meal is ready. So, honestly, just a little bit of that upfront work and that upfront prep of mixing together the marinade, putting in your chosen protein and maybe a starch that can all easily be dumped into a crock pot or an instant pot to be cooked in a relatively short time. So, those are really fantastic. Other things are like your quintessential, casserole dish. Not bad to make a big batch of a chicken and rice casserole or enchiladas or cutting up and marinating chicken for those tacos or fajitas later. So just any prep that you can do ahead of time. And I set my moms up specifically prepping those proteins so that they're ready to go.
Yeah, that's so smart. I'm not gonna have any more kids, so I'm not gonna do this, but,
Mhm.
it'd be so good to do, like, a party. Have your friends over, like, maybe as part of a baby shower or something, and do, like, a food prep. Wouldn't that be good? Maybe if we have any more friends who have babies, we should set that up because wouldn't
I
that be
love
nice?
I love that idea.
Yeah,
And what a way to come together and really support that new mom and saying, gosh, your nutritional needs really matter as well once that baby is here. And,
so
if,
much.
yes, if people have access to a postpartum doula, that's also where they can utilize maybe they're doing some batch cooking for that mama. So lots of different ways that we can support our moms. But I really find that that prep and planning ahead of time can be really essential. Or, like I said, Karlie, I also recommend some meal delivery services. If you're let's say you're new to town and you don't have friends or family that you can lean on, there's a lot of either great local or, bigger companies that provide ready to go, or at least those meal kits that maybe
Yeah.
you can ask your spouse to put together. So I kind of say that instead of maybe having a village, we're kind of seeking out and paying for our village. But again, just coming down to mama's nutrition matters as well.
Yeah. What companies do you like? I mean, I know when I'm not, it's not an ad, but I really truly wonder which ones do you think are good and which are like blah.
Yeah. On a national basis, I tend to recommend Cook Unity. Have you heard of that one?
No.
It's designed by private chefs, so they really have like a better taste quality and some really good variety. For my plant-based moms, I really like Thistle. Thistle has fantastic, really fresh and plant-forward meals. And then if I may say here locally in Seattle, we're really lucky there's a local meal delivery company called Maven Meals that provides a whole spectrum of fresh prepared foods. And it's essentially like somebody did your meal prep for you. But I'll tell you, I've even had somebody order Chipotle catering, and that was their meal prep for the entire week. So we
That
can
is
get
not a bad
creative
idea.
here,
Yeah.
right? Yes,
Cool. I'll make sure we link some of those in the show notes too, just in case
definitely.
any moms want to try those out. So let's talk a little about protein because everyone's talking about protein these days.
Mhm.
And I am like I don't know, like a carnivore. I love protein.
Mm.
So let's clear up some myths around that. So what do you recommend for new moms and for moms who are just trying to like stay healthy, fit, be energetic, all that stuff? What do we recommend as far as protein intake goes?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, protein, woo, such a big topic. Who would have known? And protein is essential. So from a starting base, I like to recommend every meal and snack should have a concentrated protein source coming from meat or a plant-based item. And that's just going to help you feel full. It's going to help with energy and it's going to help with muscle synthesis and bone health. So protein is important in all stages of life. For mamas, the recommendation that I usually stand by is zero point 0.7 gram per pound of body weight. Sometimes you'll see numbers thrown around like 1 gram per body weight. I find that personally and professionally really hard to meet. And what we're seeing in the research is anything between 1.4 to 1.6 grams per kilogram. So again, I did that conversion for you. It's about zero point 0.7 grams per pound of body weight. Weight is going to be more of that adequate protein intake. And if you're a meat eater, it's pretty easy to meet that protein amount because meat is so concentrated in protein. So, for example, a 4 ounce serving of meat is close to 30 grams of protein. That's really, really sufficient. So, if you're eating 2 meals that contain animal protein within your day, then you're more likely going to meet those protein needs. For my vegetarians and vegans, maybe you do employ protein powder or a plant-based protein powder or functional food to meet your needs. But that's where I stand on it. We want to have a diverse eating pattern, maybe not be so meat heavy and not necessarily that need for processed protein if you don't like it. And sometimes it doesn't sit well for people. So I think that zero point 0.7 gram per pound of body weight is a good thing to aim for. And then you're trying to evenly divide that in your day. So if you do that math based on your ideal body weight, target body weight, and then you divide it by 4 meals or 3 meals and one snack in your day, you kind of see how to evenly distribute that protein in your day.
Okay, here's a question for you. So let's say for new moms, I'll take myself for example. So I weigh currently about 150 pounds.
Mhm.
My ideal body weight or weight that I was before I was pregnant is about 140. So I hold on to about 10 pounds. Now, would you recommend that I use 150 or that I use 140? And again, this could be like, for me, it's not maybe that big of a difference, right? 10 pounds. But for some moms, it's significant, right? It could be 20 pounds, could be 30 pounds. So let's talk about, I know that if you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that if you're trying to lose weight just generally in life, you want to use your ideal weight, right? Like whatever you are striving to be. What about with new moms that are breastfeeding, that are maybe still in that recovery stage? Do we want to use that ideal weight or do we want to use the higher weight?
I'd probably go for somewhere in the middle, in all honesty, because oftentimes I don't recommend the mom to always compare themselves to pre-pregnancy weight. Every pregnancy is different. The body evolves with time. But if you, and I think it really comes down to one's eating pattern and preferences. Again, this is so highly individual, so I just want to put that out there as well. I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. And again, if you're focusing more on food diversity and protein diversity, that's maybe, the better place to focus. I think too, I always bring back to like, let's have moms check into their subjective feelings. It's one thing to track your macronutrients and maybe say, okay, I did it. I got all 150 grams of protein. Or in your case, it would actually, if we do the zero point 0.7 to, 1 pound of body weight, it's closer to about 105 to 110 grams of protein in that day. How do you feel on a day that you get that amount versus the 150? Do you feel different? Do you notice the change in your milk supply? Do you notice the change in your energy? So that's also important too, right? Like, do you feel a difference if you aim for that higher number, or do you really not feel that much of a difference? And then you can just rest assured that you're getting enough to support your needs. So I think my diplomatic answer would be somewhere in the middle, and then also pay attention to how you feel. And if you feel better on a higher protein day, then go for that. But if you feel better on a moderate protein day, then that's perfectly adequate as well. I'm kind of in that personally in that place where I'm not overshooting my protein goals every day because I want to eat more plant-based proteins and more of a variety of nutrition. And to me, I feel better with that. So you'll see like protein needs are just highly, highly individual as well.
You didn't know I was going to turn this into my own private nutrition
I see
session,
what you're
right?
I see what you're doing here. I see what you're doing here.
It's for the
Exactly.
people, Liz. It's for the people.
Yes. Yes.
So speaking about that a little bit, talking about milk supply and the importance of that, let's just touch on that real quick. So are there, obviously, again, we want to hit those protein numbers. What are other things we can do to just really try to help that milk supply while we're in new motherhood and maybe breastfeeding?
Number one, Karlie, hydration. Hydration
Sing it from the mountaintops.
is so, so, so important. Okay. You are lactating, you are producing amazing nourishment for your baby. And the majority of that is the water that we're drinking and just any of and moms might experience this. I certainly know in my experience with breastfeeding, I was thirsty. Once that letdown happened, it was like the thirst reflex was on full blast. So that's really nature's way of saying, yes, please drink up more water so that we can make this precious material. So hydration so, so important. What I tend to tell moms is put water bottles everywhere in your household, ideally with a straw attachment so that you can drink that while you're feeding baby. Again, via bottle or via breast, hydration is very important. If you want a little change to that water, we could embrace some diluted juice. I often recommend coconut water as well, which is a great source of electrolytes and a little bit of that sugar for energy. And, again, just kind of quenching your thirst with something different than water. But hydration has got to be number one. And then shortly after that would just kind of still be that adequate nutrition. If you can think about, can I get 3 meals and at least one balanced snack in my day, not skipping the complex carbohydrates. And in our postpartum time, that's not a time to go very, very low carb because a lot of carbohydrates are so great for producing that milk supply, sweet potato, oats, whole grains in general, really great to keep those on the plate. So those are going to be the main things to keep in mind once you're in that newborn time.
Yeah. And I think for me lately, it's funny because I know all moms like that thirst reflex, right? It's crazy. But actually, mine has died down a lot, which is so interesting this time that I'm like kind of forcing myself I'm like, oh, yeah, you still need to drink the water, even if you're not feeling that crazy thirst. It's still important. So, talk a little bit about electrolytes. I know you mentioned coconut water. Do you have electrolyte supplements I know I have ones that I particularly personally like, but do you have ones that you like that you recommend? And if so, why? Do you have a dietitian reason rather than just like, they taste good, which is like more of my reason?
I will actually say I'm not quick to recommend electrolyte supplements unless somebody is. So, what we kind of say is the rule of thumb is if you look at the color of your urine, and it should always be a pale yellow. If you urinate 2 times and you barely see any color in the toilet bowl, well, then you could be inching almost toward overhydration or even electrolyte depletion. So at that point, then you would want to switch to an electrolyte containing solution if you were still thirsty or if you still wanted to drink. But I'm not somebody that thinks that blanketly people need electrolyte solutions or electrolyte supplements. Certainly if people are sweating and exerting, which postpartum mommies do at night. So maybe that is important. But you know what? I'm going to be kind of boring here too and say you could to make one at home. So with
Totally. Yeah.
lemons and water and literally a 16th teaspoon of salt is going to give you perfectly enough sodium to replenish. And then coconut water in particular is very high in potassium. So we think about potassium, sodium, magnesium, ideally getting that from food. But if you feel like you need a little extra or you feel that extra hydration or just more replenished, then go for a homemade electrolyte solution with some lemon juice, water, and again, a very little bit of table salt or sea salt. or the coconut water. You could even add some salt into that as well to get the potassium and the sodium. What do you personally do? Which electrolyte
Yeah.
supplement, what do you tend to go for?
Well, I think because in my practice in my office, I work with such an active population of moms, I find that they are sweating a lot. And I personally, I do see a big difference personally in days that I do an electrolyte supplement and days that I don't with breastfeeding. I do notice a big difference. And again, that's just anecdotal for myself. So I do tend to recommend electrolyte supplements. And again, like whether you make that at home or, there's a bajillion brands out there. I like Element just because I like the saltiness. Some people don't like that, like terribly salty. There's another one I like, O2, that's pretty good. But then again, you have to start looking at like, okay, is there fake sugar? Is there real sugar? How do we respond to fake sugar? Some of our bodies that can cause some bloating, right? Like some of the fake sugar alcohols, all that sort of thing. So I do try to use one most days, but again, that's a personal preference. And you know what? That's so interesting about the pee. I remember when I was in college, they used to recommend, because I played volleyball, right, in college. So they would say they wanted our pee beer clear without the beer, right?
Oh,
But like
yeah.
really, like you don't want your pee that clear, right? Like you want a little color, which I think is like a lot of people don't know that maybe.
Yeah, it is very true. I mean, honestly, athletes, endurance athletes, people that work outside, like they could be at risk of hyponatremia, which just means that you're really diluting yourself of these essential electrolytes. And that doesn't feel good. That could be a headache. That could be frequent urination. You just really don't feel well with that. So yeah, it's always good to pay attention to the color of your urine. You don't want it to be completely clear, especially 2 times in a row. So if it is the case, then you switch to that electrolyte solution or even dial back with the water. The interesting thing about hydration is we can often train our body to really want a certain amount of water. So I find like some of my really good water drinkers really have to be careful with that because you don't want to overhydrate. Usually we talk about inadequate hydration, but like you said, some of the active populations, we got to be mindful of hyponatremia as well.
I know. I don't tell my husband that's possible because my answer for everything is just drink more water,
More water.
That fixes everything, drink more water. So he can't know that that's a thing.
For the record, you're typically right on that one, but there's nuance there.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. Just a quick pause. If you're feeling like your body doesn't feel like yours anymore after having a baby, if you don't know where to start or you're tired of guessing what's actually safe postpartum, I've got you. I created the Postpartum Restoration Plan to give moms a clear, doctor-designed roadmap to rebuild strength, support their core and pelvic floor, and start feeling strong again. It's just 4 days a week, under 20 minutes, and built for real postpartum life. Whether you're a few weeks or a few years out, it's never too late to start. Click the link in the show notes and I'll walk you through it. Let's switch gears a little. And again, we can talk about new moms with this, but I think just in general, I know I am totally guilty of this. And let's talk about sugar, just sugar cravings. I have the biggest sweet tooth, and I know a lot of women out there do. And so let's talk about, what do you advise for moms who are experiencing sugar cravings, emotional eating? Let's get into that a little bit. Let's start with sugar.
Yes, absolutely. So oftentimes when people are telling me that they experience cravings or they really feel like their sweet tooth is so strong, I'm going to ask them about their day of eating. And what am I looking for? Ding, ding, ding. Adequate protein, adequate fiber. So oftentimes those cravings can be your brain's way of saying, listen, I didn't get enough nutrition. And I know if I give her a strong craving for sugar, she might go answer that with some high energy food. And that's essentially what the brain is wanting. So oftentimes sugar cravings happen if you're skipping meals, if you're grazing and not really sitting down and registering the satiation from your meals, if you have inadequate protein or on the other side, inadequate fiber. So again, people that might unknowingly be going too low carb, are they experiencing more sugar cravings because they're not getting that important glucose from the complex carbohydrates? So I always talk about there could be physical drivers to your sugar cravings, and then certainly mental, emotional, right? So it's never too early in a postpartum journey to talk about mindful eating. Mindful eating really talks about, why are you eating? What's prompting that decision? Physical hunger or practical hunger is a good idea to eat. Emotional hunger, or maybe seeking out comfort, that's something to just question and something to be curious about. So that's, why are you eating? How are you eating? Are you shoveling, and not even registering the sensations of your meal, what it tastes like, the texture of that meal, and therefore your brain is seeking more satisfaction later. And then another aspect of mindful eating is, how did you feel after that meal? So did that meal give you energy or did it deplete your energy? So notice that, especially when I'm talking to my moms that are stressed, are self-sacrificing, are just trying to balance everything, I don't say, we got to take away your sugar. More, I say, how's the adequacy of your day? And how does your body feel when you eat that item? Does it give you sustained energy, or is it kind of like a firework that goes off and then you're crashing? So it's just more about like getting curious about the behavior around sugar and the perception of what you think the food gives you versus what the reality is and what it does. But I'm a big advocate of treating sugar more proactively versus reactively. So let's say it's a family tradition to go out to ice cream after Friday night dinner or something like that. That can be a proactive way of including a fun occasion that does include sugar, but maybe not using sugar every night in a reactionary way to almost like give back some energy or some pleasure that you might have lost during that day. So I think mindfulness around the sugar is just important. And then again, looking back, did I skip any meals? Did I skip any snack today? Was I shoveling? And how can I practice more of like the daytime supportive eating to see if my cravings naturally dissipate?
So are there snacks, are there certain things that, maybe you'd recommend or that could help with that?
Yeah, definitely. So when I think about like what to keep on hand, I think about having fast proteins and produce. So here comes, our favorite topic again, protein. And that just really is because it's so satiating. Like it really, really quenches our hunger. So to have things on hand like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, very in right now, right? Very in
We
right now.
love cottage cheese.
Love cottage cheese.
It's like the cauliflower, like a couple
Oh,
years ago, we're making everything with cauliflower. Now we're making everything with cottage cheese.
what's going to be
I don't
next? I
know.
just want to know.
Ooh,
So,
I
but
don't, what could it be?
that would be fun to predict that. Hard-boiled eggs, hummus, edamame pods for my plant eaters, hummus, cheese sticks, nuts and seeds. So having those items, and even better if you get them in the single serving containers, right? I know those are not very environmentally friendly, but as a new mom, we just gotta figure out what's going to work well for us. So you've got a bunch of protein items to have on hand, and then produce, fruit, very hydrating, very nourishing, also gives you that like sweetness and that sweet taste. So any fruit that you tend to love, oftentimes I know a lot of times I would go to the grocery store and even just get like that pre-cut up fruit. It's almost like if there's less steps between you and that fruit, then you're more likely to go for it. So the pre-cut up watermelon, the pre-cut up mango, the pre-cut up kiwis or things like that. So try to flood your household with these ready to go proteins and ready to go produce so that you can create mini meals or snacks out of them if you don't have the time to make a fully nourishing meal. Another fun, like sweet tooth satisfier that I still use is dates with maybe some peanut butter in there. If you're feeling crazy, a little bit of chocolate chips in there as well. You could warm it up. But that's a really nice sweet tooth satisfier that doesn't tend to have that subsequent crash later because it's coming from a real food. It's got some more nourishment. It's got some more fiber in there.
Two things pop into mind as you're talking about that. One, you're mentioning things that have a lot of fat also. Can you just talk a little bit between, as an example, a lot of people say eggs are very high in protein. Well, eggs are actually quite high in fat, right? So, which is not bad. I'm like I eat arguably too much fat, depending on who you ask. So can you talk a little bit about that fat versus protein versus Should we be worried about fat? My answer is no, but let's hear your answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So just setting the record straight that we need all of the macros. We need protein, fat, and carbohydrates, right? Like we need all of that. Our body thrives on of that. So naturally speaking, in nature, a lot of protein sources do come with fat. And so that can kind of be a good indication of we do need these items together. And fat is also really important for satiety, for satisfaction. If you find yourself hungry shortly after a meal, you kind of check back and you say, again, did I have enough protein? Yes, I did. Oh, but did it come from lean chicken breast that didn't have a lot of fat? Okay. Did I have any fiber? Yeah, I had some quinoa. That doesn't have a lot of fat. Maybe I had some broccoli. No fat there. If you added a little bit of olive oil or maybe some avocado, that meal just might hold you longer. So many proteins innately do have fat, and that's not where we would want to trim our fat from. You are right that technically speaking, nuts, cheese, eggs, more of a fat source than a protein source, but combined in meals, within meals or within snacks, they can be perfectly satisfying and perfectly balanced. Cottage cheese and Greek yogurt, you can get lower fat versions of those two. I tend to advise my patients to get 2% so that you're getting some of the fat, but you're getting all of that protein benefit. To your point, I don't think that fat is something that we need to worry about if we're mostly eating whole foods. So more of the fats to kind of be suspicious of is maybe like the fried foods or things like that, where there's just going to be that more obvious coating of fat that might not be beneficial. Plant-based fats are fantastic. Olive oil, avocado, nuts, seeds. We don't want to be afraid of these fats.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I love that. Second question. You're talking about fruit, and I know it's sort of like, us 80s, 90s babies. It's like ingrained in us to be afraid of fruit, I feel like. So I am definitely of the opinion that go wild on fruit because fruit's a whole food. The more fruit you eat, the less chips you're going to eat, right? Like that sort of idea. So can you just talk a little bit about the sugar in fruit and like your opinions there? And if I'm like way off on that, I mean, I know you're not going to tell people to eat chips instead of fruit, but like, let's talk about fruit a little bit.
Yes, oh my gosh, fruit is fantastic. Fruit is such a wonderful staple to include in your daily eating. And I think the important thing here is that we want to have fruit within a meal or within a snack. So you pair your fruit with some protein and some fat, and that's going to balance blood sugar a lot better. And we've probably all experienced this. Have you ever had an apple and then you're hungry a half hour
Totally.
later?
Yeah.
That's not because the apple is bad. That just is because it doesn't have any protein or fat to slow down digestion. It can just go into our system pretty quickly and be burned through pretty quickly. But fruit, in comparison to other refined sources of sugar, is so fantastic because it has fiber and it has fructose, which is the natural fruit sugar, which still is sugar, but it also comes with it a lot of antioxidants and polyphenols and phytonutrients that we just don't get enough of in our typical eating pattern. So I usually like to say, include fruit about 2 times per day. Personally, I do it with breakfast and then with an afternoon snack as kind of getting your 2 servings per day, but really, really beneficial to just maybe, like you said, give yourself something sweet with more of the nutrition alongside it, but you're making sure that you're having it with something else so that it really gives you more of that sustained energy.
I love that. I think, one thing I hear a lot, I know you and I have talked about this, but parents, especially like with their kids' dietary intake, is like, oh, my kid will only eat fruit. They don't want vegetables. And I know we could do
Mhm.
like a whole podcast on this, and maybe we will. But can you talk a little bit about that? Because I personally like feed my kids quite a lot of fruit. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's so natural for kids to gravitate to sugar. We have to think about how still impacted from our evolutionary biology. We are. I mean, when we were roaming around, the sweet berry on the vine or the sweet grape on the vine was sweet, and that meant that it was safe to eat. So our little kiddos know, ooh, when this tastes sweet, I really want more of that. Like, this is a safe, energizing food. So when we talk about kiddos, honestly, I put fruits and vegetables in the same category. As long as they're getting some fresh food, that is fantastic. Their little bodies know exactly what to do with that. And over time, and as they get older, the more you expose themselves to different vegetables and maybe different preparations, trust that they'll explore on their own terms. But it's very normal for them to be a little more sweet seeking at first, because again, it just registers in their brains as safe. Breast milk is actually quite sweet, right? So they're kind of seeking out that same taste and that same nourishing comfort. So I wouldn't be nervous about that. It's more about just providing your families and your kiddos a wide variety of foods, but letting them choose their adventure for the most part. They will come around to the vegetables. They will.
Yes. Okay. Good. Good to know. So I have a few rapid fire questions here for you for the end of our episode. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
I'm excited. All right. So number one, what is your coffee order of choice?
Karlie, you know I'm so boring here. It's just a hot Americano or dark roast. I like my coffee to actually taste like coffee. Could you believe that?
I know. You're so Italian.
Yes,
No creamer or
exactly.
anything? Nothing in it?
No,
No.
no, just
Okay.
give me the good stuff.
Good stuff. Okay. All right. For the record, is
Mhm.
Starbucks good stuff or is it bad stuff for you?
I'm in, you know what? I like their Sumatra dark
Okay.
roast. That's going to be my order. I could go there for
Okay.
sure.
I like it. Okay.
Yeah.
What is your go-to meal when you have zero time?
Oh man. So I love me a Greek yogurt parfait, but this is really easy. Single serving plain Greek yogurt, a little dollop of nut butter, and then an apple on the side. That just always like I love it. And maybe technically that's not a meal. It's more of a mini snack. But for me, like if I just don't have time, that's what I'm gonna go to.
How about like for your
Okay.
yeah. How about for like your family for like a dinner?
Ooh. Okay, so we're big tacos
Yeah, yeah.
and either browning up some ground turkey, ground chicken, or ground beef doesn't take any time. And then I'm often adding a can of beans to that and then open up some salsa, get some shredded cabbage, have some hard and soft tortillas, and we can make a really nice balanced meal from that. So I would say tacos all the way, and they're definitely we definitely partake in Taco Tuesday almost every week.
Yes.
My kids love the black bean tacos, so that's going to be our go-to.
I know we do. You know, it's so funny is just last night we make what's called a big bowl of goodness, which just means it's like everything, you know, like last night, for example, it was cut up sausages and then corn, avocado, quinoa, rice. Oh, zucchini, which of course they picked out and said, "Ew, this is gross. What is this?" But it was so funny because my son was like, "Are we having a big bowl of goodness tonight?" And I was like, "Yes, I love that you called it that." We just like we often do it with chicken, you know, we just like and sometimes I'll just throw in pesto, that Costco pesto I love. That's our go-to easy big bowl of goodness.
Yes, I mean, I love the concept of bowls. All of those things, especially if you have them already made from previous meals or you have odds
Yes.
and ends around
Dump it
leftovers, like
in.
put it all together in a bowl and call it a big bowl of goodness, or I call it a balance bowl. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great call as well.
Next question, one food that you think is overhyped for new moms?
Oh gosh, my answer is going to be for the general public
Okay.
and moms. You know, I'm a little suspect of collagen. I'm a little
Oh, you know I
suspect
love
of collagen.
collagen.
You know what? The only thing is that I'd love to see if we compared supplemental collagen to just supplemental protein, right? My idea is always like maybe these individuals just needed a little bit more protein and maybe that's why their tendons or hair, skin and nails is looking how it's looking. So I think collagen is a little overhyped, but I want to be disproven on that. I keep diving into the research around it. I'm more of an advocate of again just get adequate protein from diverse sources. If you love your bone broth, which is a dietary source of collagen, go for it. I use it to cook a lot of my grains in it, but I'm not really thinking that it's doing anything for my hair, skin, or nails. It's just kind of a way to add
Yeah.
a little more taste.
I feel like I do collagen in my morning coffee, but honestly, it's for the protein. It's not for like the hair, skin, and nails benefits. I just find that way I can get like 17 grams of protein with my coffee as I'm like eating going through my morning. A hydration hack. I feel like you already said this, but hydration hack every new mom should know.
Gosh, the straw attachment on the
Yes.
stand, I don't know. It's just straws just make hydration so much
Yes.
easier. So, you know what, if you're buying something for a new mom, or if you want to send this over to your partner, like get her the Stanley with the straw attachment or,
Yes.
and a hydration flask with the straw attachment, because you'd be surprised how many things you need to do with one hand. So the straw attachment on water bottles is a hydration hack that I'd stand behind for sure.
No, I agree. I always give new moms, I mean, I guess before Stanleys were like the thing, a nice, cute, big water bottle with a straw, and then it fits in a cup holder, right? Like those are the keys, which obviously Stanley, like, whatever. This is not sponsored by Stanley, but it fits all those criteria. And that's why you need it to be big. You need it to have a straw. You need it to fit in the cup holder, and you need to hold it with one hand. So there we go. What's your guilty pleasure food that you fully stand by?
There's so many, because you are right. I like to allow myself the fun food every now and then. That's what I like to call it with my patients and clientele, is fun food. One that comes to mind that I just like will never say no to is chocolate chip cookies right out of the oven.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, just like, is there anything better than a warm chocolate chip cookie?
Yes, 5 of them.
Yes, there we go. There we go. Exactly.
That is what's better. So, Liz, tell everyone where they can find you. Obviously, I'm going to link some of your meal plans below. We'll give all your information there because they are just so, so helpful. But give everyone all your info, all your deets.
Perfect. So Liz Wyosnick, registered dietitian, and my private practice is Equilibrium. The ending is YUM. So come visit my website. You'll see some old and non-updated blog posts, but you kind of get a smattering of how I help in my approach to nutrition. And then on the socials, on IGM at equilibrium_Liz. I'm not very active on there, but maybe I can be pulled back into that arena. I offer one-on-one nutrition counseling. I absolutely love helping moms in all stages: preconception, pregnancy, postpartum, even many, many years beyond postpartum. So that's where you can find me.
And I want to mention too, this is one thing that I really adore about Liz is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but in Washington State, you'll take insurance, correct? Not outside, like you can't do other states. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. In Washington State, I accept new insurance, and usually it's a covered benefit. So usually it's a zero out-of-pocket expense, and I'm in network with many major insurance companies. But yes, I do that so that I can be more accessible to many people. So that's great. Yeah.
Yes, I adore that about you. I think it is so important. And also, I mention that because a lot of people don't know that most health insurance plans do cover some nutritional advice, some assistance. So if you're in another state and you can't work with Liz, look into your program, look into your insurance plan, because you probably do have some benefits that are sitting there and you could be using them and getting some help.
Use them. Exactly. Yes. Good PSA.
Yes, right. Liz, thank you so much. You are just such a ray of sunshine. I adore you. And I think that you're going to be so helpful. This is going to be so helpful for so many women out there. So thanks so much for joining us.
I truly hope so. Thank you so much, Dr. Karlie. Good to see you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Every Mom is an Athlete isn't just a podcast. It's a reminder. Motherhood is athletic, and you're still the athlete you've always been. But it's not about going back. It's about moving forward intentionally and powerfully. If this episode resonated with you, I'd so appreciate it if you'd share it with a friend, leave a quick review, or rate the show. It helps more moms to hear what they need to believe, that every mom is an athlete. See you next time.